I've been doing some research on the gender pay gap, so I'm going to tell you what I've learned. You've probably heard it said, a woman earns 82 cents for every dollar a man makes. However, this may be misleading. You might be left thinking that a woman in the same exact job as a man will be making only 82% of what he earns, and that this statistic accounts for credentials and work hours. In fact, this statistic represents the uncontrolled gender pay gap. Gender pay gap compares the median wages of every man and woman in the workforce. People who discover this feel lied to and rightfully question whether the gender pay gap even exists. A woman in the same job and with the same qualifications as a man makes about 99% of his pay. This is the controlled gender pay gap. This gap is not nothing, but feels dismissible or perhaps just a simple fix of women engaging in more salary negotiation. The controlled gender pay gap is much narrower than the uncontrolled gap. This shows that while wages are equal between genders in the same job position, women are in lower paying jobs. Women work less, and women are in less high-ranking positions. Some believe that this is due to a woman's career choices or decision to have children. Others contend it is the product of discrimination. What the two sides are arguing is whether injustice is involved. I would like to acknowledge that intersectionality makes a big difference, referring to that average woman does not nearly account for the experiences of women of every race. Additionally, men and women are not the only two genders, and others may face gender discrimination in different ways. I apologize as I will not be addressing these people very much, and I will be focusing on the gap between men and women. You might have noticed on the graph here that the wage gap seems to be decreasing. While we are moving towards equality, 30% of the shrinking gap is due to a decline in men's wages and is not entirely a good thing. Also, while white women's wages may be rising, women of color remain mostly unaffected. Either way, women in general continue to be making less. This general gender gap is explained by a multitude of factors. The truth is, if every form of discrimination was eliminated, it's likely that the uncontrolled gender pay gap would not close completely. This, though, does not override the fact that there are things that need to change. The gender pay gap has long-term effects on women and on society as a whole. For things to change, people need to know. Almost half of American men and 1/3 of total Americans think that the gender pay gap doesn't exist. It does exist, but why? I've narrowed down the reasons for the gender pay gap to 6 main categories. Allow me to introduce my rainbow ring of reasons. Male-dominated jobs pay less. Women are held to a higher performance standard. Motherhood, women work less. Benevolent sexism, and the appropriate balance between too feminine and too masculine, or too arrogant and too passive. These barriers prevent women from being hired, promoted, and working as many hours. These reasons are all interconnected and part of a self-reinforcing system. For example, the main reason women work less is because of home and motherly responsibilities. Mothers are also held to a higher performance standard. Meanwhile, women trying to get into male-dominated jobs are held to an even higher performance standard. The assumption that women can't handle harder jobs plays a part in the fact that female-dominated jobs have lower salaries and male-dominated jobs pay more. What I'm trying to say is, it's really hard to demolish these barriers one at a time. Anyways, let's get more into detail. Male-dominated jobs pay more. This is both due to the fact that men are more ambitious and strive for the higher paying jobs, and that some male-dominated jobs are higher paying because they are male-dominated, and therefore people give them more credit. On the other hand, female-dominated jobs pay less over time as the percentage of women increases. One reason why there are more men in higher-paying jobs can be attributed to college majors. Women have the tendency to pick college majors associated with less lucrative jobs. However, women who do try for male-dominated occupations may be subjected to sexual harassment or gendered violence from colleagues and are driven out. Some argue that women ending up in lower-paying jobs is entirely a choice, and saying otherwise is insulting because women can stand up for themselves. Contrastingly, my view is, a self-respecting woman may very well leave jobs where they are being treated unfairly. Additionally, women in male-dominated jobs have trouble getting promoted and eventually face an invisible or glass ceiling, preventing them from getting to the top, while men in female-dominated jobs often experience a glass escalator. Despite qualifications, women seem less fit for a stereotypically male job and have decreased performance expectations. In a job dominated by men, a woman with the same credentials will be seen as less qualified. This could be intentional or unconscious bias. This leads us to our next topic of discussion. Women are held to a higher performance standard. People are skeptical of their expertise but give men the benefit of the doubt. Men are evaluated more on their potential, while women are evaluated only on their current achievements. Women receive less credit for success and more criticism. Pregnant women and mothers are discriminated against because of a perceived lack of deservingness. They are believed to be less committed. Childless women are seen as more competent, whereas fathers are unaffected. Motherhood has a strong effect on a woman's occupational status. Fathers are more likely to be working than men without children, whereas mothers are less likely to be in the labor force than childless women. Some women prefer more flexible jobs and mother-friendly occupations. Even so, their pay doesn't actually decrease because of the jobs they choose, and is breaks in employment that account for the pay gap between mothers and women without children. Because women use flexible job arrangements more than men, they score lower on face time and lose their promotion. Women are less likely to work long and particularly irregular hours for extra rewards. Also, women are twice as likely to work part-time. The gender wage gap is in fact largely due to a gender hours gap. This does not discredit the fact that sexism also plays a part in the gender wage gap. Managers give women fewer challenging roles and fewer training opportunities. They have less access to high-level responsibilities and challenges that are precursors to promotion. This is because men assume that women have less capacity to handle challenges. This is a form of benevolent sexism. It may seem harmless, however, being kept away from challenges and criticism lead her skills to stagnate. Also, someone who evaluates a woman's performance may not tell her what she is doing wrong, but writes it down on paper, so she does not get promoted. In organizations with formal job ladders, women are less likely to advance because often job ladders are divided by gender. Women may lack job experiences that were unavailable to them, and eventually run into the glass ceiling that prevents them from leadership. It is argued that the main reason women are paid less, or the only reason a controlled pay gap exists at all, is because women don't advocate for themselves. However, women are more likely to be penalized for negotiating. This being said, women who negotiate salaries are paid more over their lifetime than women who do not. Nonetheless, women who act stereotypically masculine or agentic and pursue leadership often experience disrespect and discrimination. Additionally, women's performance is evaluated more strictly due to a paradox of appearing too feminine or too masculine. Feminine women are more likely to be a victim of benevolent sexism. They seem more delicate and need to be protected from challenges, so they don't get promoted. Women who appear too masculine are disliked and not promoted, or believed to be lacking social skills. There is no winning. There are a few reasons that don't exactly fit into any of our main categories. First of all, women are more willing to move for a husband's employment than vice versa. Therefore, women have a lessened ability to widen their search for the best job opportunities. Furthermore, men benefit more from incentive pay. Women are less likely to reach the heights of the economy where they receive more of their pay through an incentive-based structure. Female executives receive a lower share of incentive pay, and women are less likely to be rewarded using incentive pay at all when they reach high-ranking positions. Last but not least, many organizations expect female workers to fit into systems designed for male life patterns and gender roles. For example, the 9-to-5 workday is built to support male 24-hour hormonal cycles without consideration for females. Additionally, workplaces assume that women will have children and they will be affected by this while a male partner will not. This affects women that want to have children who work in male-dominated jobs that have no accommodations for them. This also affects women who don't want children but are deferred from longer or harder jobs because it is assumed that they will take significant time off work at some point. In conclusion, gender inequality affects the workplace, and there are barriers for women. These barriers are often portrayed as a glass ceiling, or as it is put in Delivered by Women, Led by Men, a gender and equity analysis of the global health and social workforce by the World Health Organization, a labyrinth, a twisting and turning series of barriers that are both visible and invisible, rather than a sudden and clear limit that prevents women from reaching the final upper level of leadership. Consequently, we need to support women, make more consequences for sexism, and abolish gender stereotypes.